Alpha Omega, Part 9. Ego-bound human beings, yet seeking for order, power, enlightenment, truth, or God, have themselves been the traditional makers and transmitters of exoteric religion and esoteric seeking paths. Even though all traditional exoteric religions and esoteric seeking paths began with a response to either an adept realizer or an inspired prophet, or a significantly developed teacher awakened at the level of the fourth or the fifth or the sixth stage of life. As a result, controversies and conflicts, even terrible in their results, have characterized religious and sectarian history, and thus the total history and civilization of humankind. Therefore, my fullest and complete, and thus necessarily seventh stage avatarically given divine self-revelation of the intrinsically egoless and perfect and divinely liberating truth of reality itself must bring an end to the ego-based religious, cultural, and social and altogether political controversy and conflict of civilized and even now post-civilization humankind. By establishing the really ego-transcending and truly reality-realizing disposition as the foundation principle of humankind. I am divinely avatarically born in order to give and to serve the fullest and complete, and thus necessarily seventh stage self-revelation of the intrinsically egoless and perfect truth of reality itself. I have come to restore and to complete the true reality way, or the real and perfectly esoteric and really ego-transcending process of spiritual, transcendental, and divine self-awakening, which is the only right foundation of conditional existence. Therefore, by freely, fully, and ceaselessly addressing conditionally apparent beings everywhere, and by teaching them the self-evident truth of reality itself, I have worked to give the gift and pattern and transcendental spiritual self-transmission of the divine and perfect reality truth to every aspect and dimension of life in the cosmic domain. Likewise, through the recorded documents of my avatarically self-revealed divine teaching word and the material fabrications of my avatarically self-revealed divine image art, and the recorded revelation stories of my avataric history and teaching play with my devotees, and my now and forever hereafter given, and now and forever hereafter divinely self-revealing, and always to be remembered, avatarically born bodily human divine form, and my avatarically self-transmitted transcendental spiritual, and always all and all blessing divine presence, and my avatarically self-revealed, and very and transcendental, and perfectly subjective, and inherently spiritual, and intrinsically egoless, and inherently perfect, and inherently perfectly self-revealing, and self-evidently divine state, and all my true instruments, and truly blessed agents, I will always be at work to give the gift and pattern and transcendental spiritual self-transmission of the divine and perfect reality truth to every aspect and dimension of life in the cosmic domain. I was, by a great divine intention, avatarically born into the Omega culture of the West, and I self-revealed my avatarically spoken divine teaching word by means of a great divine work of avataric self-submission, or even playful confrontation with the aggressive egoity of Western humankind. This was the necessary service, because humankind everywhere in the now common world society is basically characterized by the Omega orientation. The great tradition of spiritual and transcendental esotericism has been most often and most basically communicated to humankind in its Alpha orientation. But I was divinely avatarically born to struggle with the inherent conflict between my Omega-born human nature, inherited from my Western birth into the civilization of humankind, and my otherwise Alpha-born inward or deeper personality nature, otherwise in past time, acquired from the Eastern pattern of humankind. Indeed, it became progressively more and more necessary and inevitable for me to struggle with even all the contents and results of humankind, both Alpha and Omega, which I absorbed into my own body-mind in the lifetime course of my divine avataric self-submission to all of humankind. And it was only by means of my great avataric struggle with the totality of humankind in my own form that I was able to discover and prove how the Omega type of human being and the Alpha type of human being and even every one of humankind may enter into the inherently perfect way that is reality itself by means of the divine avataric reality practice of ego transcending devotion to me as I am. The great divine avataric struggle was most perfectly fulfilled. The ALETHEON and the Dawn Horse Testament are, with all the other source texts, or true water bearers of my 23-course divine avataric reality teaching, the summary of my divine self-discoveries, made by means of my divine self-submission to avataric incarnation, and my divine self-revelations made by means of my avataric given divine self-confessions of my own divine secrets. My avatarically self-revealed divine teaching word is not a word of instruction in the Omega form, nor is it a word of instruction in the Alpha form. Anyone, whether previously acculturated in the Omega manner or in the Alpha manner, can, by means of me recognizing devotional response to me, and thus and thereby through devotional participation in my avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual grace, enter the only by me revealed and given reality way of intrinsically ego transcending and all limitation transcending real God realization, and perfectly realize that process by means of my avatarically self-revealed divine instruction and my avatarically self-transmitted divine help. Both the Omega type of human being and the Alpha type of human being can, if moved to the great realization that intrinsically transcends the conditional self, discover by means of my avatarically given divine instruction and my avatarically self-transmitted divine help, what must be understood, and what must be surrendered, and what must be converted, and how all of that can be done. The ALETHEON and the Dawn Horse Testament are the summary of my divine avataric self-revelation of truly human and spiritual and transcendental and divine reality truth. I freely and by heart speak the one and only truth that is reality itself and real causal God. I am the divine avataric self-revelation of egoless, non-conditional, and necessarily divine reality itself, which is the only real self-nature, self-condition, source condition, and self-state of all and all. I am the perfectly subjective, non-separate, indivisible, intrinsically egoless, perfectly causal, and self-evidently divine self-revelation of reality itself. I am thrilled to speak the divinely avatarically self-revealing word of my own intrinsically egoless and self-evidently divine person. I communicate in divine paradoxes, often using and also positively criticizing the styles of both Omega language and Alpha language in my considering work of communication to every point of view. Nevertheless, I do not reduce the only by me revealed and given reality of Adidam to mere talk, or to the mind of any separate and necessarily incomplete point of view. I am the heart, the one and only person. I am Adidam, the only by me revealed and given radical reality way of the heart. I am one and only, non-separate, irreducible, and indivisible. Therefore, Adidam, the only by me revealed and given radical reality way of the heart, is single, all-inclusive, complete, whole, indivisible, and unique. The only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is describable innumerably. The only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is beyond description. My intrinsically egoless heart itself is both the perfectly subjective source condition and the inherently perfect self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of my every word. Therefore, my avatarically self-revealed divine teaching word includes and transcends both the Omega language and the Alpha language, even by including and transcending both without prejudice. I always and only speak the one truth, even tacitly without a word, by means of perfectly self-radiant silence. I am the divine Eleutherius, the all-in-all liberating divine reality truth. I am the inherent and perfectly subjective and intrinsically egoless and inherently non-separate and inherently non-different and intrinsically indivisible and inherently irreducible and inherently perfect and perfectly acausal and self-evidently divine tacit self-apprehension of reality and real being itself. My spoken and written revelation of the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam, and thus all my spoken and written language of avatarically given divine self-confession, avatarically given divine self-revelation, and avatarically given divine heart instruction, is the avatarically spoken and avatarically written divine heart word. My avatarically spoken and avatarically written divine heart revelation of the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is utterly single, fully all-inclusive, most perfectly complete, truly whole, intrinsically indivisible, and entirely unique. The only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam is altogether beyond the limitations of Alpha and Omega. I am altogether beyond the limitations of Alpha and Omega. Although I was of divine avataric necessity, born in the West, I myself am not a Westerner. I am me, indivisible, one and only. When I became divinely avatarically born to hear, I was, from the beginning, the perfect infant manifestation of the divine brightness, identified with no culture whatsoever, whether of Alpha or of Omega. The bright and the thumbs precede all of Alpha and Omega. I precede all of Alpha and Omega. I am silent, I am restless. I am full. I satisfy the want and call for joy. Therefore, listen to me and hear me and see me. Heartily and perfectly locate and know me, and thus and thereby heartily and perfectly locate and know my avatarically given divine self-revelation of the non-conditional reality, and gratefully, formally, and really devotionally, and altogether fully and completely practice the only by me revealed and given reality way of Adidam in every moment of conditional existence. Da.